Hello, friends. Today's recap is about a love story that looks soft on the outside, but hits like a storm once it starts moving. Imagine this, a world-famous model living under cameras, contracts, and constant pressure, and a broke artist living off sketches, dreams, and pure, stubborn hope. They come from completely different worlds, and the moment they fall for each other, everything gets messy. Money, ego, jealousy, and the kind of secrets people hide behind perfect smiles. One wrong photo, one rumor, one betrayal, and their romance can flip into a disaster overnight. But here's the twist. This isn't just about love. It's about pride, survival, and the price people pay when they choose heart over comfort. So if you like emotional drama, intense chemistry, and shocking turns that keep you glued to the screen, you're in for something special. Let's start, friends.
The plot of the film unfolds in Italy, where Caterina feels a great deal of nervousness. She is compelled to wear loose clothing, pull her hair back, and try to stay calm. After pulling back the curtain, all the men eagerly await Caterina's appearance. One of the assistants brings a chair for Caterina and asks her to show her two beautiful legs, but Caterina becomes angry with him when she notices that he begins to cross boundaries by trying to touch her. The man appears upset by her reaction. Caterina raises her left hand, and another assistant starts playing with her hair, revealing that Caterina is a model and the students are preparing to sketch her. The professor, Giancarlo, enters and instructs the students to draw Caterina. He notices that Caterina's feet are dirty and orders an assistant to clean them. The students begin sketching Caterina as the professor instructs them to draw every detail, from Caterina's head to the soles of her feet. A young man named Leonardo da Vinci observes Caterina attentively from the sidelines, fixated on the scars on her arms. It seems that Caterina notices Leonardo staring at her scars the entire time. After 2 hours, most of the students finish sketching Caterina and leave to review their artworks. However, it turns out that Leonardo hasn't drawn Caterina. Instead, he has drawn a saint in her place. This angers Caterina, who asks him if he thinks she is a fallen woman. Leonardo responds to Caterina, saying that the professor had asked them to draw the ideal saint inspired by Caterina's appearance, but she doesn't seem ideal in Leonardo's eyes because of the scars on her arms. Caterina's anger at him intensifies. On the day of the artwork presentation, all the students nervously line up to present their artistic works. The first student presents his drawing to the professor, who accuses him of failure. The professor then turns to the second student, who confidently presents his work, which seems to impress the professor slightly. When it's Leonardo's turn, he presents a blank first page and a blank second page as well, explaining again to the professor that he couldn't find inspiration. The professor gives him a one-day extension to draw an image of Caterina, warning that he will expel him otherwise. Caterina returns to the studio as she wishes to continue the modeling session, but the assistant informs her that she is no longer needed because they have found another model who allows people to touch her legs and who doesn't have any scars. Caterina leaves in anger and meets Leonardo, assuming that he is the reason for her dismissal because he told them about the scars on her arms. However, Leonardo quickly defends himself, confirming that he said nothing about her scars. He then asks her to allow him to draw her again. Caterina agrees and asks Leonardo to accompany her to her home, but Leonardo hesitates, thinking it's inappropriate for a young man and a young woman to be alone in a room. Eventually, he agrees because he needs to complete his task. Leonardo arrives at Caterina's home, where she tries to recognize him. Leonardo then asks her to sit so he can draw her. Leonardo is a very poor young man, to the extent that he must steal paint from his professor's studio for his artwork. Late at night, Leonardo notices his professor is upset and asks him the reason. The professor confesses that he is in a significant predicament. He's been tasked with lifting an 18-ton cross to the top of a church. This is a daunting challenge due to the immense weight of the cross. Leonardo realizes that his professor's reputation is at stake because of the difficulty of the task. He sneaks into the professor's room and begins designing a new mechanism that could lift the heavy cross to the top of the church without it falling. Leonardo also demonstrates his brilliance in physics. The professor is astonished by Leonardo's design and begins constructing a lever system based on his plan. On the day of the cross-lifting event, a crowd of dignitaries gathers to witness the moment when the 164-foot high cross will be raised. The professor is extremely nervous as his entire career hinges on the success of the operation. Leonardo closely monitors the situation and observes that his plan successfully lifts the cross to the top of the church, earning applause for the professor, who knows very well that Leonardo is the reason for his success. The professor expels Leonardo from the studio because he didn't sketch Caterina, and also discovers that Leonardo has been stealing. Caterina learns that the professor has dismissed Leonardo and presents him with the painting he created, proving his talent. The professor is impressed by the painting, as it is 99% identical to Caterina. He realizes that he has a hidden gem among his students and begins searching for Leonardo, who has hidden himself and feels despair about his future. The professor humbly asks Leonardo if he is the one who designed the cross mechanism and confirms his suspicions. He then asks Leonardo to return and work with him. Shortly after, the professor receives a new assignment and invites Leonardo to work with him. Together, they go to Santa Savina Church, where the professor has completed most of the painting to be presented to the king, leaving the most challenging part to Leonardo, drawing a small angel. Leonardo begins imagining the angel and decides that it should be inspired by Caterina. Leonardo adds the final touches while his professor observes, realizing that Leonardo has surpassed him. On the day of the grand unveiling of the artwork, Leonardo da Vinci stands next to his professor and witnesses the presentation of his first major work, which amazes the crowds. The painting is so stunning that Duke Ludovico offers to employ Leonardo with double the salary and the promise of a private studio. However, Leonardo refuses, as he cannot betray his professor. The professor's assistant, feeling jealous of Leonardo, sends a letter to the judge claiming that Leonardo has an inappropriate relationship with Caterina. This results in Leonardo's arrest and imprisonment, but he remains calm and composed. A man who appreciates Leonardo's artistic work helps him get released from prison. Upon returning to the studio, Leonardo discovers that his professor no longer wants to work with him due to his tarnished reputation following the prison incident. Leonardo da Vinci loses his livelihood and feels utterly lost. Suddenly, he receives an offer from a man who asks him to paint a portrait of his daughter, Giovanna, for her wedding. The man wants his daughter to appear happy in the painting, but Giovanna's face is filled with sadness, making the task difficult. Caterina advises Leonardo to face reality and encourages him to fulfill the employer's request, despite Giovanna's perpetual sadness. The next day, Leonardo arrives at the employer's home and begins his work. It becomes clear that the task is more difficult than anticipated, as Giovanna is unable to show even a hint of a smile. It seems Leonardo works tirelessly for several days to paint the girl with happy features, but makes no progress. After days of hard work, Leonardo finally completes the painting. When Giovanna sees the portrait, she is speechless because of its beauty. For the first time, she reveals her true smile. It appears that Leonardo has managed to paint a smile on Giovanna's face after years of sadness.